Good morning. My name is Eva Miller, and I'm a student at the University of Louisville, and I am making an instructional video for my professor, Dr. Terry Rowland, for class ELFH 316. My video will be about how to prepare a lesson plan for ages second grade to or sixth and seventh grade. This will be a Bible story. The Bible story will be the creation, which includes the creation of the universe and also Adam and Eve. The first thing that I will do is just give a little background in the intro is that um, I want to introduce 4 elements of learning that I will be using to teach the lesson plan or how to bring about the lesson plan. They are motivation, reinforcement, retention, and transference. These are the points that when you're teaching a lesson, you want to make sure that you cover all these when you're trying to bring about or make sure that you're teaching or using these elements of learning. The second thing that you want to know is you have to know your audience. Okay. Also, it's important because I have taught kindergartners, first graders, elementary school, middle schoolers. Each one of them learn differently. Each student learns differently. So you also have to know your audience. And through that, you also have to know several modalities of learning because children and students are not monolithic, which means they don't all learn the same way. Some children are hands-on, some are visual, some are intellectual learners. So when you want to present a lesson plan, you want to make sure that you incorporate different modalities of learning that incorporate these different types of techniques in teaching. Um, then you also must be able to have what is it that you want your students to learn? What is the main point? So you're going to have to come with student outcomes. What do I want them to learn? What do I want them to be able to review? What I want them to analyze. So when you're preparing a lesson plan, you need to have all this in the back of your mind when you're preparing a lesson plan. You need to know what you want them to actually learn. What's the major goal? What's the major point? What's the theme? Also, pedagogy is a learning style that's step by step. I usually use this with the younger children because they're still learning. Usually, when I do for middle schoolers, I may do more critical thinking and have more questions, more discussions. But with the younger children, is usually I use the pedagogy style of learning because it's step by step, and that's how they normally learn. Um, the most important thing is that when you're preparing a lesson plan, is that you, the teacher, have to be prepared. And one of the main things is teacher preparation. Okay? Say, for instance, now what my lesson plan will be about teaching the creation story. What I would say is to study Genesis chapters 1 and 2 in 3 different Bible translations. I usually use the Message Bible, the King James Version, and also the New Living Translation because each one of those, the wording is different. It expresses the same story in a different style, and you get it in your mind. It's easier to be able to tell it back to the story, to the students. Also, I also suggest that you use a study Bible. A study Bible usually exegetes the scriptures and explains each one a verse. It may give a lot of history because when you're teaching, I don't care if it's even second graders or little kids, you always want to have more knowledge than what you're going to present. You just don't want to know the basics of the story. You want to know more history. You want to know more background. I've always said that you present 10% or maybe 20% of the 100% of knowledge that you know on a particular subject. So the more knowledge you know, the more comfortable you are with presenting your lesson plan or your story. The next thing is for the story that you want to do is I suggest on the Bible creation is that we find a video on YouTube, something that shows the creation story. Used to be you could always have to go and buy videos and VHSs, but you don't have to do everything. You can find anything on VHS now. So I would go on there. On there, there's an example of creation story. It's about 8 minutes long. Another thing you want to do to set up with that is to bring in some fruit. I would say apples, especially just fruit, especially apples, different kind of apples, because while they're watching the video, about when it gets to Adam and Eve and the apple and the fruit tree. They can use it as a snack. And then that's another element that you're using is the taste. Another modality of an element of learning is that you're putting all that and you're putting that senses in with the taste. Materials that you're going to need for the opening activity. Well, you're going to need um, construction paper, markers, crayons, Play-Doh, or clay. And what I am suggesting for the open activity would be, and then we'll go through the outline at the end, but you would have the students come in, and I suggest that have them, if he's going to do a creation story, give them Play-Doh or paper and crayons and have them say, I want you to create something or draw something that no one has ever seen before. Maybe an elephant with a long neck, or a fish with 6 legs, or something, put animals and things together. Have them let the creative juices flow. I've seen some really strange things, but it's really cool to see how they can examine, because what I want them to see, the theme is that we're all creators. God is in us, and just like he created, we can create too. So use that creative juices and use your imagination. Again, there's another essential that you're using is to touch, and you're doing something with the Play-Doh and the drawing. The end thing what you will need is your materials that you're going to be needing for your last activity, and that's going to be the reinforcement or the transference, and that would be the closing activity, where you would be like the review, and that would be a game activity that I use. I usually take things that they're familiar with every day, and that's the Family Feud. And what you will need for this activity is a small lecture stand, a small ball, something that they can just fit in their hand. A dry easel board is usually on the wall, dry markers, and I usually have fruit snacks or animal crackers as their prize for whoever wins, still going along with the theme of the creation and the animals and the fruit snacks. I'll explain this in more detail when we go through the outline. The outline is the most important thing when you're going to do a lesson plan. You can get lost. You need this as a guideline when you're you're teaching your class, and you need an outline. So I never do anything without having an outline. And the outline of this class, this lesson that we will be doing, at the prayer and the lesson topic will be the first things that they do when they come in. Usually take about 5 minutes for prayer, and then you would tell them what the topic is. The opening activity would be 10 minutes. That would be with the Play-Doh and the drawing. That's also time that we give them to socialize, because they like to talk and play with their friends. So it's a time for them to do that. It's a time for you to talk with the children also. The next thing that I would do is, after we discuss the animals and why and what would they name that animal? Okay, you created this. What would you name this? You made this out of Play-Doh. Now what would you call it? Is it an elephant, skunk, or skunkopotamus, or whatever? Just like Adam named the animals, what would you name your animal? The next you would have is the video and the snack. We're going to reinforce, so we're getting ready to start. The video would be a short video, and it would just be another visual, because they're always on the TV, they're always on their iPhones, iPads, and this is just a visual to let them see a movie about the creation. After that is over, then you would have the discussion or the telling of the story. This is where it's very important that you know the story. You have to be very visual. Children are not going to just be able to sit and listen to you just lecture or read a story. They want to see some animation. So, for instance, I tell the story, just when God gave him Adam, and he took him and showed him Eve, and he was like, oh, baby, you are beautiful. You are my woman. Oh, God, what did you do? This lady is like awesome. Like, she's a bomb. Kids love that kind of stuff. When you can tell the story and you don't have to read anything and just tell it from memory, the more you know, the better it is. The last part of that would be the Family Feud game, will be the closing activity, and that's what I would use as my reinforcement. And I would already set up, and you know how the Family Feud game goes. And what I would do is this is how I put on the board, and I would say, name 5 categories, 5 things that happened in 5 things that God created during his creation. You know, they could, whoever snatched the ball first. And you say, he made land, he made the sun, he made the sky, he made the animals. What did he make on the sixth day? The fourth thing I might say, I mean, the next game around we might say is, you know, I usually divide them up on teams. It's usually the girls against the boys, and say, well, what would um, name four things that happened in the Garden of Eden, four important things that were going on in the Garden of Eden. They might say the snake or Adam and Eve or whatever. And that's how, and at the end, everybody gets another snack and close out. But it ends up, can go longer than this, but this lesson plan will be at least 50 minutes if you follow this, probably more. That's going to end my instructional video. I don't have any children to work this out. I don't have any little children, but I have taught this to my class about, maybe 5 months ago when we were on the creation video. And I hope this is helpful. Thank you, and you have a great day.